For the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and booty walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together. These black girls getting a shift together, dog. When God made you, boo, you know he showed out. Mahogany enchantress, blessings overflow now. Picture of success, seductive silhouettes on a spiritual quest. Manifest and be blessed. Mother, sister, auntie, tribe of Ashanti. Rocking your locks, I got a close crop blondie. The curse and the gift, uplift, apply pressure. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Nothing like a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together, man. These black girls are getting a shift together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. This is a podcast about mental health and wellness, as well as self-empowerment for Black women and men. I'm your host, Ursula. I'm a transformation life coach and a mental health and wellness advocate. Each week, I promise to deliver relevant topics and resources that affect our community. So remember, once we can identify any triggers is when we can start to heal. Guess what? Today is the last show of the season, of season 2. But do not worry, I'm starting again. Season 3 starts July 2nd. At 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure and tune in. Make sure and check out the website, blackgirlsgettingtheirshifttogether.com for any kind of information. Remember, there is merch, and more importantly, I have coaching packages, the one-on-ones, the clarity calls, and the tribe vibe. If you want to know what that is, you're going to have to go to the website and take a look. We have a lot going on today. I want to get right into it with my handsome guest. But before that, make sure if you are tuning in on YouTube to hit the red subscribe button so that you can be up to date with any upcoming events or topics that I have coming up, as well on Facebook. Make sure and hit the blue button so that you can follow and like the page. Even though I'm on hiatus for the month of June, do not worry. There are still going to be repeats of really good shows that I've had in the past, and they will be airing every Monday and Wednesday. Also, if you want to become an advertiser or a sponsor, or you want to become a guest, or if you have any show topics, please inbox me. Go on my webpage. You can email me from there, or you can reach out to my DMs on all my social media. That being said, I'm going to bring my handsome guest out right now. Deon, are you ready? Here I come for you. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here.
You know, I'm going to read your bio if you don't mind, because People may not know who you are for some of the new listeners, so I'm going to give this amazing bio of yours. So everyone, Deon Brown has graduated from Towson, University with the Bachelor of Science degree in clinical psychology. He received his Master's of Arts degree in pastoral counseling from Loyola College and a certificate in chemical dependency counseling from Dundalk Community College. He is experienced in working with adolescents and adults in individual, group, and family counseling. Brown has also worked as a psychiatric therapist in the community psychiatry program at Johns Hopkins Hospital and has over 13 years of working in the counseling field. This is some good stuff. Deon he specializes in providing mental health evaluations as well as alcohol and drug evaluations for adolescents and adults. He's also trained to integrate the behavioral sciences with his clients' individual religious traditions and or spiritual foundations. He is currently a member of the American Counseling Association and a licensed clinical professional counselor and a licensed clinical addictions counselor within the state of Maryland with the Board of Professional Counselors. But more importantly, Deon's biggest achievement, he's a returning guest to Black Girls Getting Their Shit Together. Deon, do you want to tell us a little more about yourself? Anything I forgot?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I'm a presently licensed clinician here in Maryland, labeled as the DMV therapist, _DMV therapist on IG. And I'm the founder of my own practice, DJB Therapeutic Solutions, LLC, as well as I do a lot of talks and presentations for companies, organizations, and churches around mental health and wellness.
See, Deon, he's a triple threat. He's a therapist, he's an associate pastor, and he's a Marvel Comics enthusiast.
That I am.
That's the trifecta right there. So today's topic is about self-care for boundaries. This is huge with a lot of people, including myself, which is why I reached out to you.
Sure.
I'd like to read a couple of sentences about understanding boundaries, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Great. So, understanding boundaries is a way to take care of yourself and set strong and healthy boundaries around yourself and your life. A boundary is like an invisible line around you, and it's what separates you from other people. It's also a line between what you are comfortable with and what you are uncomfortable with, what is acceptable to you and what is unacceptable to you. Boundaries help protect not only our physical safety, but also our emotional well-being. That's what got me right there. What are your thoughts on that intro?
I think that was a pretty accurate introduction to boundaries. I certainly do a lot of work with people around boundaries and boundaries being violated. And we all wrestle and struggle with boundary issues in our relational interactions with people, for example. So, just being a professional therapist, I have to maintain certain boundaries professionally with clients and have them maintain certain boundaries with me as well.
Can you define what a boundary is? A healthy and then an unhealthy boundary.
So, personal. Let me start here by saying personal boundaries are they're the limits, right, and rules that we set for ourselves in reference to relationship. So when we talk about healthy boundaries, a healthy boundary means that I can say no when I want to or when I need to, but I'm also comfortable with opening myself up to intimacy as well as, as well as other relationships. There's so many types of unhealthy boundaries, and I'm thinking of a few personal recent examples. But an unhealthy one example I would say of an unhealthy boundary, might be where a person in some type of power or authority is, and we kind of tapped into this some in the previous show. A person in some sort of power role or authority is mishandling their power and their authority and their relationship with someone else. They're taking advantage of them in some sort of way.
Right.
That could be in so many settings, really.
So could that could be, it could look different ways. It could be a political figure.
It could.
To a parent.
It could.
Teacher.
Absolutely.
Pastor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All of those.
Police officer.
All of those. Yep, absolutely. Boundaries. Boundary violations for sure.
So what does a healthy boundary look like?
So, a healthy boundary in a nutshell means, and it has the presentation that, I am aware of my own individual feelings, rights, and etc. So we look at communication. Like, let's say that there's a couple, and I do some work with communication skills. Let's say there's a couple and a person needs to communicate to the other person. So a healthy boundary would be understanding that I have a right to my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts, and to communicate that to the other person in the relationship, while also respecting them and who they are and their feelings and their rights. So that's a healthy couple relationship, or in a family system. Some people have trouble with their relational interactions with, some grown people have trouble with the relational interactions, maybe even with a parent, a mother or father. A parent, a grown man or woman having a parent step in and violate their boundaries by trying to control their life. So there's a lot of examples to this.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's specifically talk about emotional boundaries as it relates to self-care.
Sure.
That's heavy. Well, at least for me it is. I believe sometimes when you see so many boundaries crossed when you're younger, you do not identify it when you're older. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we some of the things that we experienced in just human development and growing up, maybe we didn't know any better. We didn't know what was going on, and now that we are older and we see, we learn, we grow, we develop, we see things differently. Yeah.
So how can someone identify when a boundary is crossed?
How can someone identify when a boundary is crossed? So if we're talking about emotional, right?
Emotional boundary.
Yeah, so we do a lot of work around helping people tap into their EI, right? Their emotional intelligence. Their emotional intelligence, right? So many times in the culture and society, we're focused on, IQ, intellectual quotient, but we don't take a lot of time to help people tap into their emotional intelligence and what's happening, what's going on inside you. What are you feeling? Why? Are you angry? Are you hurt? Disappointed, frustrated, disgusted, pissed, whatever the emotion is. So when we're talking about emotional boundaries and self-care, sometimes people, when they are trying to express their emotions, and I can't even begin to explain. May is Mental Health Month. June is Men's Health Month.
It sure is.
So yeah. I can't even begin to explain to you how many men wrestle with issues with emotional boundaries. What do I mean? A break or a problem or a violation of emotional boundary any gender, but I definitely hear this a lot from the men that I work with, and when I do men's events, having my emotions dismissed or invalidated, pushing it to the side. And that can happen, that can happen in work relationships with a supervisor, with a boss. I'm feeling overloaded, I'm feeling overworked, not enough time to meet my deliverables, my deadline. It can happen in romantic relationships. It can happen in family relationships. Young people talking to their parents. I feel, that's their feelings. That needs to be heard and understood. So their emotional wellness can be moved and dismissed. But that can be a situation where a person has to stand up for themselves and take care of themselves, right? Self-care means the intentional, deliberate, focused care of oneself. So me having self-care, my emotions are being dismissed. They're not being heard, right? They're not being validated. So me investing in my self-care is being assertive and saying, this is what happened. This is what you did. This is what you said. I feel frustrated. I feel concerned. I feel conflicted, whatever it is. Because, a good piece of our own self-care is understanding that no matter who you are, what you do, your age, religion, socioeconomic status, your emotions are important and they're valuable. So you standing up for your own emotional wellness is self-care. And there are situations and people that want to kind of violate your, I like how that came to me just now, violate your emotional integrity. So you want to.
Can you explain emotional integrity?
Sure. Your emotional integrity just means, my reliance and resilience in knowing that and standing firm in knowing that this is what I feel and have felt and the why. Because sometimes in the culture, we tend to invalidate people's feelings. You should not feel this way, or you shouldn't feel frustrated. You shouldn't feel angry. And I tell my clients all the time, don't ever let, for example, this would be a client setting a boundary. Don't ever let anyone in your life tell you what you should not feel. Your feelings are important. They matter. You're investing in your own self-care to say, no, what you did, I felt hurt. I felt disappointed, and I need to take care of me. And by communicating that to you, to release that out of me so that we can keep our relationship at a good place, whoever it is. I hope I didn't talk too much to answer your question. I just went.
No, this is some good stuff. While you're talking, I'm literally absorbing all of this because some things I have not heard before. It's always a learning lesson. Do you find that that's in our community, more in our community, about not showing emotions?
I think so. I think unfortunately, and again, in a number of individual talks and presentations I've done for, educators, mental health professionals, business people, etc. When people are asking questions and comments, we've been socialized a lot of times to shut down freedom and freeness of expression and what we think and feel. And so part of what I do is really helping people understand they don't have to do that. That they don't have to shut down, they don't have to hide their emotions, etc. They can feel free to freely express themselves.
Right. I read somewhere when you want to communicate how you are feeling, to start small. What does that look like?
Say that one more time for me.
I read where when you want to communicate how you're feeling and you're expressing yourself to someone, and it made a note on where you can start small communicating. And I didn't understand that, because when I read that, I'm thinking, does that mean playing small? But I thought that would be counterproductive to wanting to express yourself.
Okay.
So
Well,
what does that mean? Start small.
well, it can kind of mean a few things. So I do a lot of, I do a lot of work too with communication and communication skills with people. Um, Working on a signature talk now, conflict resolution and communication skills for. There's a lot of organizations have trouble with this too, businesses.
Can you repeat that again?
So I'm presently working on a signature talk. I have about 12 signature talks that I do for companies, organizations, and churches. And one of them that I'm working on now is called conflict resolution and communication skills.
Ooh.
And so a lot of people, individuals, listen, family systems, companies, corporations have trouble with this. They're greatly challenged in communicating. So a few ways to start small would be to practice some of the assertive communication skills, and maybe I tell people a lot of times, plan what you're going to say ahead of time. Write it down. Put a few notes in your phone, and just getting in the practice of expressing oneself and communicating. Maybe start expressing with a smaller issue. Like, oh, you went to sleep last night and didn't do the dishes, versus just getting in the habit and practice of doing it. If a person's not used to communicating their emotional wellness to other people,
Right.
Before going into, you harmed me so deeply 10 years ago.
Okay. The butter up.
Pretty much.
Hey, if it works, I had to learn that because I self-taught, not proud of it, to just go right in. No buttering up, no lube. We going straight to the issue.
I'm gonna spit that water out just now. That's funny.
But it didn't work.
Right.
And it didn't work. It actually was total opposite reaction of what I wanted. But see, I know better now.
Absolutely.
I use my lube now, my verbal lube.
That's important. That's very important.
It is. Any other tips on how to get the conversation started? I remember you mentioning using I statements and going in smaller and then leading up. Any other tips?
I think I'm thinking, because I was actually dealing with this with one of my clients earlier today. We were talking about, various assertiveness skills. So, definitely being able to, like you said, utilize the I messages, plan what you're going to say, be comfortable understanding that you're not responsible for the other person's reactions. I say that to people a lot. You're not.
Go into that a little deeper.
Yeah,
I've heard that before.
So oftentimes we talk about emotional intelligence and expressing oneself, and my emotional self-care, and setting a boundary. People struggle. I want to express this, but he or she may act like this. He or she may respond this way. He or she might make me feel guilty. So we do a lot of work around helping people understand that they are not responsible for another human's reactions. You are responsible for what you do, what you say, how you communicate, how you get things across, but you're not responsible for that other party's reactions.
So that would be considered a lot of the ruminating thoughts as far as creating this whole conversation that never happened.
Pretty much. And people create narratives in their head all the time. People create narratives in their head all the time.
Okay, that makes sense when it goes back to you saying, write it down. Maybe write down what you're going to say. Stick to the script.
Absolutely. Very important.
Okay, I'm kind of getting this now. Where were you years ago?
I don't know.
So what's your opinion about feeling like you have to over-explain when you set your emotional boundaries?
Over-explain? Over-explain. So
Or
I think
like you do not have to explain? Or like, should you?
that's a tricky question. Training for me kind of steered me away from should phrases and should statements, because should statements are kind of rigid. So I think we tend to prefer, or would prefer, certain things to happen. Let me give you a good example. I can't even begin to, human relationships and human dynamics is really interesting. A lot of people, you live long enough to a certain point, in a certain age, you will have a falling out with at least one person, and maybe several. That could be a friendship, right? A romantic interest, family members, work colleague, church member. List can go on and on and on. You have a falling out. Sometimes people feel like they have to cut a person off to engage in self-care, right? To take care of themselves. This person is bad for me. They are toxic for me. Now, I have to endorse that. That is true sometimes. That is true. There are situations at times where it's important and vital to cut people off and not deal with them. They're not good for you, good for your life trajectory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But tremendous amount of people will do that in their mental belief of them engaging in their own self-care. Tremendous amount of people will do that, cut another party off, and will not give the other party the grace of a conversation.
Oh, you just cut me deep right there. Oh.
They will not give the other party the grace, of a conversation. And so now you have the other person who has been probably ghosted in some sort of way, because now the person is not returning their calls, not responding to texts, emails, may have blocked them on social media networks, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So now you have this other person who has been ghosted, and he or she may be clueless. What's happening? What's going on? So I always encourage my clients. I will say it's healthy for you. Protect your own emotional, your emotional self-care, set a boundary. This person may be bad for you, might be toxic for you, maybe problems. Express yourself to this person. Tell them how you feel, what you feel, and why you felt it, and why. At least if you decide that you no longer want to deal with this person, and a few of the people in the audience are saying, ouch, okay. If you no longer want to, on my page, if you no longer want to deal with this person, talk with this person, that's fine. But at least give them the grace. I almost felt the preacher part of me coming out with that. At least give them give them the grace to know what happened and why. Tell them. At least they'll know. If you decide, hey, we're not cool no more. You're not my boy. You're not my homegirl. You're not my friend. You're dead to me. At least give them the grace to know what they did, because the person will be walking around no closure. They're creating a narrative in their head. They're probably thinking you're such an idiot and a jerk. And so at least give them the grace to know.
Oh,
you got to talk. See, I can talk self-care and boundaries like forever.
Oh, we're here for it, because while you're talking, I'm realizing in my past how emotionally immature I had been with my cutoff game. And I'm not proud of it either, but I didn't know how to express myself and just, talk about not using lube. Just go for it. Just cut.
Right.
Not a good feeling
Gotta use the lube.
What'd you say?
Gotta use the lube.
Say that again, Pastor.
No. You gotta
it's okay.
Right.
Oh my God. Yeah, that cutoff isn't good. That's not good. And I've been on both ends of it. It's not good. But we're all trying to do better.
We are.
What are your thoughts on no being a complete sentence?
Yeah.
As far as communicating your boundaries.
Sure. So what's funny? I didn't learn of that phrase honestly myself, and I do a lot of work with self-care and boundaries, setting boundaries with people. I did not hear of that phrase literally until like the last month.
Really?
Myself, yeah, because let me go real side. The psychology of the phrase "no" being a complete sentence is quite interesting. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who developed it, if it was originated by somebody in the behavioral sciences or not. But I think it depends. I won't say it's an all-inclusive statement. I do tell people they have a right to say no. There's something we call the Assertiveness Bill of Rights. So yes, you have a right. I know.
What is that?
It's the assertiveness Bill of Rights. It's kind of like a document. I've seen it a long time ago. It's probably somewhere in one of my books or novels from grad school. I'll probably have to look it up. But it's a list of inalienable, like the Bill of Rights for the U.S. It's a list of inalienable rights that you as a person have. And yeah, I know. And one of the things it says is that you have a right to say no. So you have a right to say no. Now, no sometimes can be a complete sentence, but just saying no by itself sometimes might not always be sufficient. I work and teach people the how to say no. Okay, how to say no. So if you don't mind, let me indulge you.
Please.
I like to be prepared. So I gathered a few things together. I'm a planner, so I like to be prepared whenever I have to talk to people.
May I compare my no to your no?
Sure.
So the way I would say is no. That's it.
Okay.
That's not good. Or no, thank you.
Huh?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
I don't want to.
Oh no, that's good. That's great. That's great. That's great. That's not bad. Actually, that taps into some of the things. So listen, you always have the right to say no. When doing so, express yourself clearly and without ambiguity, so there's no doubt about what you want. So examples of that are things like, I'm not comfortable with this. Statements like, I can't do that for you. Things like, this doesn't work for me. Not at this time, like you just said. See, you had one of them. Things like, please don't do that. Things like, I don't want to do that. People really struggle with that one. And things like, I've decided not to do that. Now, I am very good personally, I'm just going to put my personally out here. I'm very good personally and professionally with setting boundaries and limits with people.
What are your favorite no thank yous?
Let's see. Let me see where to start. So it can vary. So I can say things like, let me get back to you on that. And now for me, sometimes when I say that, I've already made up in my mind that that's a no. I'm just thinking of a nice, gentle way to tell you. But I'll say, let me get back to you on that. Or I'll say, I'm actually tied up that day or that time. Or I'll say something like, and if I'm not, I'll make myself tied up. It's true, Or I'll say, I won't be in town, and so I'll make myself literally not be in town. So if I say certain things, as far as what people always have a right to make a request, but you always have a right to say no. So I'll say something like, yeah, they can make a request, but you always have the right to say no. I'll say something like, yeah, I don't think I feel like doing that. Or I may say, let me look into that. So when I give those, so see, my statements are kind of there's a it's kind of it's not a definitive.
But
No.
shouldn't it be a definitive?
It will come with a definitive, but so I'll say let me check my schedule and see what I'm doing Saturday around that time. I already know I'm saying no, but what I'm doing is I teach people the art of sometimes you deal with the art of postponing the no. How about that? Yep, I know. I just said a mouthful. Sometimes you deal with the art. You got to know who you're dealing with. You know, individuals make requests, group make requests. You deal with the art of postponing the no. Because
so what about if it's a woman? Because women, we hear things differently.
Go ahead, I'm listening. Give me. Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter. I think gender wise. So I'm also very good. I'm also very good personally with setting limits. You know, I set limits professionally and in my private life all the time. So you know, I'm a traveler, so people pay attention to me and what I'm doing and where I'm going. So I'll have people, you know, I'll post something on social media, and let's just say I'm out the country coming up. It's coming up. Praise the Lord. Let's say I'm out the country. Somebody will say, where are you? What do? I won't respond. You get no response. I don't part of my boundaries for myself, emotional wellness and my own boundaries, I don't talk to people in my personal life via social media when I'm on vacation.
Right.
So that's a boundary. So me setting a boundary. But I get asked all the time. It depends on the person and my relationship with them. You know, just I'm very good at delaying the no, and I'm very good at deferring to give you a definitive answer.
So that's not considered avoidance?
No, because I will give you one, but I'll give you one in my own time. Oh, I like that. Oh.
Okay, Bazza.
I'll give you one in my own time.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't let anybody pressure me into giving them a response right away. You know, what are you doing? So somebody may say, let's say if I'm in town, what are you doing Saturday, June, whatever. Depends upon who asks and what it. I'm like, so my go-to would be, okay, let me check my schedule. Wow, what's up? What's happening that day? So with that question, I'm evaluating, I'm investigating. I'm saying about what the event is, who's going to be there, do I want to go? I'm being honest, this is me. That's just how I flow. You know, what's happening, what day is it, what time, who's going to be there, do I want to go? And based upon me assessing and getting all that information may depend upon, I'll say, that day doesn't, I may say one of these, that day doesn't work for me.
Did you ever see that meme on social media when it said Black people, their way of saying no is who's going to be there?
Yeah, I did. And it's true. I'm definitely the funny acting person that might attend depending upon who's coming or not coming. I don't believe in boundaries, self-care. I don't believe in spending my downtime around foolishness and foolish people. I like to laugh. I like to go out, have fun, and a great time. I don't do drama, so I'm very aware of who I spend my personal time with socially, who I travel with, either in the States or out of the country, all of that.
Agreed.
You know,
agreed.
My mother sometimes, sounding about my mother has said, you're going such and such. Who are you going with? Oh, just some friends. Who? She may say, who? Oh, just some friends. See how I just deferred and just back to the general. Just some friends. Who with who? Just some friends. Do I know them? Yeah, just some friends.
Yeah, I get it. May I read a comment from Joanne? Joanne said, women seem to do that a lot. I'm not sure what she was referring to, but Joanne, if you're still logged on, if you can give a little more explanation. And Keisha, she said, great advice. And Joanne also said, at least let them know. Thank you, ladies, for your input. We're looking for some more.
Feel free to ask any questions. Those that are logged in, live and on my Facebook page as well, because I could see some people, I could see a few guys and ladies. Feel free to ask any questions around self-care and boundaries as we explore this topic.
Please do. And if you see any questions on your end, please feel free to read them as well.
Yep, sure will.
Yeah, for sure. But guess what? Before we do that, we have to take a break.
All right.
Let's see. Hold, please. Guess what's going on with Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together? Season 2 is over and we're on hiatus. But don't worry, we're returning June 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with amazing special guests. Please leave a message if you have ideas for show topics, or if you want to become a sponsor, advertiser, or a special guest on the show. Check out our website, blackgirlsgettingyourshifttogether.com, for updates and special events. So, next question. While you're looking at your questions, okay, say you've set the clear and direct boundaries and you're being polite. You use no as your complete sentence. You don't over-explain. You're elusive like yourself. You're maintaining a respectful tone, and you're definitely using the I statements. What to do if you get pushback from setting emotional boundaries? Should you expect the pushback or just assume it's going to happen?
Good question. I love it. Sometimes I sound like, I do so much talking in my practice, which I love. I love my work. I love my clients. I love forums like this. I'm really an introvert by nature, but my gifts and my abilities make me have to be in front and talk. This is fine. But I say a lot to my clients. Like I said, you're not responsible for the other person's reactions and their emotions. You express yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, etc. If you haven't been used to setting boundaries, if you haven't been, I've grown people who have struggled with, mother or father, just to, have boundary violations, just trying to run their grown people's lives, tell them what to do with their kids, etc. And so I remember one of my guys, I'm gonna use this for example, struggled with, he was very assertive in most of his relationships. With his mother, he was very passive. So we had to look at that and look at those dynamics in his growing up and his development and etc. And so I told him, I said, well, listen, you're not used to setting boundaries with your mother. So expect some pushback. You're not used to setting boundaries in the context of a certain relationship, dating relationship with men and women, or women and women, or men and men, whatever. Expect some pushback in those dynamics, but you're gonna have to stand firm on your own emotional boundaries and what you feel and why. Stand firm, and they're not gonna like it. They're gonna give you a fit for a while, but if you stand firm, over time you will retrain them in how to deal with you.
That's interesting. First of all, you just triggered something in my head. I was talking to another friend of mine, and I purchased the book. Oh, I forgot who wrote it, but oh my God. Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I just purchased it literally about 3:00 this afternoon. And I'll be transparent. It took me until last year that I expressed myself to a parent as my age now, and not the 9 or 12-year-old child in an adult body. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. And it just made me realize how many times people our age group or adults, how we still let our parents talk to us any kind of way, with no respect, no boundaries, the pushback. And then sometimes it's just easier to play small, because I believe that's what we've been conditioned to until we do hold those boundaries. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we are conditioned to that. And I just want to, like I always say, whenever I teach self-care, boundaries, work with people around communication skills. Again, we have family relationships, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. We have friendships. You know, some break, some friendships are long lasting, they stay. We have romantic relationships, we have work relationships, church relationships, or spiritual relationships. Our life is full of a plethora of relationships. So we can expect sometimes in those broader contexts of relationships, you know, whether it's your lady, your boo, your buddy, your homeboy, your aunt, colleague at work, supervisor, member at church, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in those relationships, in order for you to engage in self-care, you might have to set, you know, boundaries. And one of those types has to be, you know, emotional boundaries. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you talked to many clients that experienced a lot of pushback when they decided to have their boundaries?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If it's a relationship where they have not been setting boundaries, yeah. It was a relationship. So let's talk about, if you don't mind, let's talk about physical. You know, one of the ways that boundaries can be violated is physically. And unfortunately, I have male and female clients, and maybe someone listening who's been in a relationship and there's been a violation of physical boundaries because their person and not even the person they're married to has inappropriately touched them in a sense of violence, you know, or aggression. And so, you know, that can be physical abuse of a certain sort. So that in that context, again, I've seen this with men and women. You know, she was, you know, guys saying she was hitting on me, and the lady saying he slapped me, and etc. So I don't advocate. I think it's very toxic in any relationship, anybody putting their hands on each other physically. So that's a physical boundary violation. Does this happen in our society? Sure. But it's so me engaging in self-care is saying, hey, I'm not going to be in this relationship and be physically assaulted. Me engaging in self-care is saying, I'm not going to be in this relationship and have you violate me physically in my physical space and put your hands on me and harm me. I'm not going to be in this relationship. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to set a boundary. I'm going to let you know right now that I'm not going to, this is not going to be a toxic domestic violence relationship.
Right.
Because that happens.
That sounds like consequences.
It is. And so that's one way to engage in self-care. When your boundaries, with certain boundaries are violated, the other party might need some sort of consequence.
Would that be considered an ultimatum as well?
Depends.
Really?
Because sometimes a consequence means, in that sense, if you violate me, sometimes a consequence could be, for some people, it's an automatic consequence. If you violate my physical boundaries by hitting me, man or woman, I'm stepping out. I'm terminating the relationship automatically. In other situations, people will say to a person, "I really care about you. I really love you, but if you do this again," that's ultimatum sense. So it depends.
Oh,
yeah,
that's good.
Now, for me, me personally, if I was in a relationship and I get hit once, that would be a one and done for me. That's a no. That's a big no. I would not want to be in a situation. I've been trained not to hit women. And so, but I don't want to, there's a famous, I won't say his name, but I was about to say, there's a famous Baltimore athlete who I think maybe either the nature of their relationship was generally toxic. There was definitely physical boundaries being violated. But I think if that was their norm, which it might have been their norm, both of them. Toxic, but it might have been their norm. But if it was their norm or not, he had an instance where he snapped and it cost him his career.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not even want to play around in a situation like that. That would be a one and done for me. That's a deal breaker.
Absolutely. Well, since you are a triple threat, if we can pull out the spiritual card, how can someone hold their boundary, their emotional boundary, in the spiritual sense? I know we talked about that before in our other, but I don't know if we touched on this part of it about the boundaries. Actually, we did not. Now that I think about it.
So in every area, you have healthy, positive interactions and relationships, and unhealthy interactions and relationships. I had a session recently where I gave the characteristics, just kind of flowed out of me, characteristics to a person who was involved from a Judeo-Christian perspective. I gave him some perspectives of what to look for in a healthy spiritual leader relationship, because that situation was not healthy. Yeah. So sometimes people we talked about abuse, right? And hierarchy, and I'm this authority figure in this area, in this church, in this synagogue, in this mosque, in whatever religious tradition it is. And in all of those religious traditions and areas, there are true, genuine, authentic, great people. But not everybody. And so sometimes, and I think growing up, you're pulling on my my spiritual hat with this a little bit. Growing up as what I would call myself a church baby in that sense, I've been in a religious Judeo-Christian context since I was age 11 up until now. So I've seen a lot, and I've had very good experiences in my home church. But I know of a lot of other people and situations and how they dealt with stuff. But professionally, sometimes I'll have clients who don't have very good religious or spiritual backgrounds or interactions, and they tell me some of their horror stories and how they might have been abused. And so in a general sense, I'm working with someone right now to help them terminate their present spiritual relationship, because that is not good self-care for them, and their own personal boundaries from their spiritual authority figure is being their own personal boundaries are being severely violated.
Really?
Severely. And obviously I'm being very general on purpose.
Right.
Severely.
That's deep.
Oh, it is. Oh, it's so using fear of God or spirituality sometimes as a manipulative tool to get a person's cooperation happens. That's an abuse of boundary violation. And sometimes even promoting somebody. Oh, I'm going to make you such and such in this organization, institution, et cetera. If you stipulations, do what I say, do what I want you to, But a person in that context they have to say, hey, I need to engage in my own self-care, and sometimes people have all sorts of inappropriate interactions and relationships in every setting. So.
This is true. I read somewhere where it took me a while to get this, and it said to not, if you get into it with someone, like there's a disagreement, and in turn you have and must set personal boundaries. And if you receive the pushback, especially if it's a negative pushback, very harsh, that person more than likely has, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like they're protecting their unhealed trauma. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So now I can look at it as, you know what, we communicate differently.
We do. The psychology of individual differences really tells us that we communicate differently, in a lot of ways.
And listen differently as well.
We do.
I'm going to pull up this graphic. And if you don't mind, if you just give me your thoughts on it, let's see if I can get it up.
Sure.
Let's see. Can you see that?
I can.
Okay. So this is an audio podcast. So for people who are listening, it's a graphic of examples of unhealthy boundaries. So there is a box and it's healthy boundaries, and there is a dotted line surrounding the person. And then I'll let Deon, if you don't mind, continuing going on and explaining your thoughts on this graphic.
So I think I saw this before. I can kind of see, I can see it a bit, some of it. I can see it some. I think I can see it some on my phone as well.
The second box is limited boundaries. That's what that says.
Okay, got you. So it looks it looks limited, loose,
and rigid.
Okay, got you. So let me do this, because there's a it reminds me, there's a one of the therapeutic worksheets that I look at with people. It's a graphic similar, but it's the wording is a little different, and it says healthy boundaries, right? Porous boundaries and rigid boundaries. So I think it's pretty much the same. Healthy boundaries means valuing the person valuing their own opinions. They share personal information in an appropriate way. They know their personal needs and wants and can communicate them. Porous boundaries is a person that overshares information. Might have difficulty saying no. Dependent on the opinions of others. And then rigid boundaries a person avoids, and you can see the rigid on the far right, avoids intimacy and close relationships, very protective, and has few close relationships, and unlikely to ask for help.
Wow.
Yeah.
All sound familiar. And I love the dotted lines. And for those who are listening, I will post this graphic on my Instagram and the Facebook page on Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. But the rigid, I love that graphic with the line, and it's a hard line, and it coincides with what you just said about not letting people in. And then when I read the loose, that seems like a people pleaser as well.
Yeah.
Wow. That's some stuff right there. Any parting words that you'd like to, or suggestions you'd love to give about emotional self-care?
Well, well, just self-care in general, or let me give some a few. Let's do four. I'll do four. I love giving tips, so let's do 4 tips. In parting here, closing. Let's just do four tips for healthy boundaries. 4 tips. Okay. Number 1, know your limits. Know your own limits. So before getting involved in a situation, know what's acceptable for you and what isn't. Be as specific as possible in knowing your own limits. Okay.
And you said be specific with it?
Be specific as possible, or you might get pulled into a trap of giving a little bit more over and over again until you're giving far too much. So just know your own personal limits in a situation. So that's number 1.
That's good. That's good. I like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Number 2, know your values. Know your values. What does that mean? It means every person's limits are different, and they're often determined by our own personal values. So if you value family above everything else, or time, or whatever, know what your own individual values are as far as your boundaries. Number 3, listen to your own emotions. We talked a lot about emotional intelligence. Listen.
That's a good one.
It is. Listen. Listen to your own emotions. If you notice feelings of discomfort or resentment or whatever, don't bury them. Try to understand what are you feeling right now. And sometimes certain feelings, there can be things buried underneath. So listen to your emotions. Pay attention to your emotions. That's number 3. And number 4, lastly, talking about self-care and setting boundaries. have self-respect.
Can you explain that?
Of course I can. Have self-respect. So if you're always giving into others, ask yourself, am I showing myself the same or as much respect as I'm showing them? Boundaries that are too open might be a person's attempts to be. Thank you, Joanne. I know. I believe I'm talking good stuff. Boundaries that are too open might be your own misguided attempts to be liked by other people. So have some self-respect. So again, let me repeat those 4 tips for healthy boundaries. Closing, leaving you all with this. Know your limits. That's number 1. Know your values. That's number 2. Listen to your emotions. That's number 3. And have self-respect. That's number 4.
That's some good stuff right there, Deon. May I put an asterisk next to 3?
Sure, you can.
So when you said listen to your emotions, I believe sometimes that we can ignore our emotions, but we cannot ignore how our body feels.
Love it.
So if someone is, oh no, that doesn't bother me. I'm good. No, babe, do you. Meanwhile, my heart is pounding.
Mm-hmm.
I have sweat dripping down the back on my back, or I'm clenching my fist, clenching my jaw. Your body does not lie at all. So I think we can say all we want coming out here, but our body keeps the score.
The body, yeah, I see it. I actually have it. I can see it on my file cabinet right now. The body keeps the score. I forgot the name of the author because his name always eludes me.
Bessel?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. See the body. Yep. The body keeps the score. With the mind-body dichotomy, yeah, it affects us. So good stuff. So I hope those 4 tips and people that were listening, hopefully took some notes. But those are 4 tips that I would leave people with.
That's some good stuff. Well, you always come with it. You never disappoint. I promise you.
Thank you. I appreciate
you
that.
You never. So these are the notes that I took listening to you, because this is really good. Let's see. No is a complete sentence. And this one I really love. People can make a request and you can say no.
Absolutely.
I love that. And to always use your verbal lube.
I think I might have to put that in the post tomorrow. That's funny.
Verbal lube makes everything smoother and easier. It's less friction, and then the communication can start. It's easy flow after that.
People are dying laughing off that one. I might have to post that one. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. But you know what, Deon? What my last conclusion is?
What's that?
You are a Black man that definitely has his shift together.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh my God. So if anyone has any questions for Deon, or you want to get in touch with him, please go to his link. I put it in the show description box, so you can just click on it, and his Instagram is there. He has some really good Instagram posts about self-care, boundaries, anger, and how to, I saw that one. That was really good. And how to navigate through that. And definitely visit his website. That is also in the show notes. Definitely go to blackgirlsgettingtheirshifttogether.com. Make sure and follow the page. And if you're viewing on YouTube, to click the subscribe bell. Remember, I am going on hiatus next for the month of June, but I am returning July 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But no worries, I'm going to have videos uploaded every week, so you're not missing out on anything. These are all some of my favorite episodes. And make sure, if you want to become an advertiser or sponsor, or to be a guest on this show, or if you have any great topics for sure, nothing is too small. Just inbox me, email me, slide up in my DMs. I am okay with everything. Other than that, Deon, thank you so much for coming on. You know, yeah, you really come with it all the time, and I enjoy it so much, and I always learn something when you come on.
Awesome.
Always. But other than that, you all have a great evening, and see you in July.
This for the queens, sisters manifesting their dreams. Get your cream by any means and beam with self-esteem. Beauty supreme and Buddha walk so mean. The way you fit in them jeans, you eat your cornbread and greens. Dance or a doctor, red wine or vodka. Redesign your spot and redefine your mantra. Retwist your locks and realign your chakras. Doing your squats and getting closer to God, huh? Brunching with your squad or taking a girl's trip. Adjust your crown, you God's gift to the world, sis. Celestial body, drink your water. Meditate, sun-kissed goddess, heavenly order. Levitate, tribe of Ashanti, black girl magic, melanin popping, whether you ratchet or lavish, whether you bougie or savage, you a gift and a treasure. You got to love a black girl getting a shift together. Black girls are getting a shift together.